Okay, looks like we're live on YouTube. Yep. Okay, that sounded really bad. Why? Is it even working? Okay, that sounded really bad. Okay, that's an improvement at least. Right, so another stream. Okay, let's get that audio cut off there. Right. Ukraine-Russian news in brief. I'll be very quick on that one. There's so much I can talk about Ukraine and Russia, what's been happening recently, but that'd be for another day. Or check out my tweets on UKR RUS News on Twitter. There's X now. So that's one place you can catch that. And of course there's a Telegram channel, t.me/the nation state. So let's quickly get to Ukraine. I'll get to the UK stuff a bit very, very shortly. Let's see here. Let's copy that there. Okay, go right across. There we go. Okay. Right. So what's happening in Ukraine, Russia? Well, CNN came out with a report recently. And to sum it up, a couple of years back, I remember I did a stream. I was doing a lot of streams in relation to Ukraine and Russia. It was actually one of the main things I covered on my YouTube channel. Of course, I showed a lot of things on there. For example, the shooting, the clashes, soldiers dying, because I wanted people to see what was happening on the front line. They didn't quite like it. I remember I got a strike on my channel because I uploaded a video of Priti Patel and Boris Johnson getting absolutely fooled by those two comedians. I can't remember who they were now. Pranksters. I can't remember their names. I think one was called Voran or something. And the British government actually ordered YouTube, believe it or not, at the time, to take them down. That was the Tories. How dare you make us look bad? I got a strike, and eventually the channel got, blown apart. So the time I remember talking about this, because those who remember me who actually were following me at the time, about over 1,000 subscribers. Not bad, it wasn't like a lot, but it was actually growing slowly. And at the time, I was talking about how Ukrainians don't really want to fight this war. And I remember going to Twitter Spaces, and it was just hilarious listening to people, particularly from America, who had no clue at all what was happening. They were completely clueless. They would call you Russian propagandists for merely stating what was going on, having your opinion put forward, and say, look guys, you have to take my word for it. Here's what's happening. I've got it right in front of you. It's right here. Right? It's right here. Listen to the Ukrainians yourselves. Listen to them. I'm not making this up. Kept saying, these men don't want to fight. Young people don't want to fight. It's a problem. In fact, these spaces still do exist, by the way. You have time to listen to all of them, obviously. They're quite long. This is during the campaign for the US presidential election, during the GOP race, who has become the candidate for the GOP. And I kept saying to these guys, look, I don't think you understand that the people who wanted to fight for Ukraine are pretty much dead. Ukraine doesn't really have the form of nationalism that you think they do. They have an affinity and love for Russia, for Russians. It's actually propaganda to try and sell to people that all these people were saying Slavia Ukraine all the time, were many people who are mercenaries, for the most part, believe it or not, and people have no clue what was happening and what Ukraine is actually for. In many places across Ukraine, they still speak Russian. And they still prefer to speak Russian. Even if they had the alternative to speak Ukrainian, they would probably prefer to speak Russian. So CNN, credit to them. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When these guys do a good job, I've got to give them credit. When the media do a good job, you've got to give them credit. End of story. There's actually about 4 paragraphs from this story, which are not hidden. They're there for people to read, because usually people just read the headline and they move on. And that's very annoying sometimes, because I'm thinking, guys, there's a lot more to the story than you think. It's there. It's actually in the story. It's right there. And you ought to pay attention. So, what they said is, let me see if I can get it on the screen actually, it'll be better to do it. Let's get that image out of the way, broken Britain, as you can see. You can probably barely see it on the screen at the moment because it's a bit small. Let me zoom in. So it starts off here. It's first paragraph. Kiev also faces an acute challenge in the town of Konstantinivka, where its forces saw swift Russian advances in the past week to the southeast and southwest. Russian FPV attack drones can easily target vehicles inside the town and kill the driver of a civilian van on Sunday despite the explosive and the device not detonating. Vasily, a commander of the 93rd Mechanized Brigade, said he had not been sent new personnel for 8 months. I'll repeat that again. Said he had not been sent new personnel for 8 months, and was forced to resupply frontline positions of only 2 men with drones, airlifting food, water and ammunition. This is his own words. Quote, "No one wants to fight," he said. "The old personnel left, they are tired and want to be replaced, but no one is replacing them." Let me repeat that for people at the back. No one wants to fight. The old personnel left, they are tired and want to be replaced, but no one's replacing them. Funny. These are almost my words verbatim a couple of years back. He blamed Ukrainian officers for giving inaccurate reports of the front line to their superiors. Yes. That was constantly pushed, by the way, by Sky News, by BBC, by the Daily Telegraph, by the Times paper, by the Guardian, by the Independent, and so on and so forth. It's funny how you learn these things after the fact. Quote, "A lot of things are not communicated and are hidden," he said. "We don't communicate a lot of things to our state. Our state doesn't communicate a lot of things to the people." So this guy who works with one of the most organised brigade in Ukraine comes out and says on to these guys, to CNN, "Our government is lying to you. Our government in Kiev is lying to you and the people of the country." That's what he said. There's no other way of spinning this. Now, you may argue for propagandists, well, you've got to lie about some things. You want people to know how bad it is. That's true, and Russians could do the same thing as well, no question about it. Forget about them for a second. It's about what you guys do, what you guys have been saying to people. You've all been lying. You got paid for it too. Further north, near Kupiansk, about 60 miles east from Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, or Kharkov as Russia would say, Russian troops have raced over the town's north, threatening a key supply road for Ukrainian forces to its west, taking the village of Redkivka. A Ukrainian source in the city describes the situation as very fast-moving, and Russian analysts have said their forces are in the town's outskirts. The cumulative effect of the Ukrainian manpower crisis, the turbulence of Kiev's relationship with the Trump White House, and uncertain supplies of weaponry are a perfect storm that has broken the face of vigor and persistence of a Russian summer offensive whose progress is no longer incremental but is reshaping the conflict and bringing Putin closer to some of his goals fast. It's basically CNN admitting to you that Russia are going to win. And then something drastic happens, right? Something really explosive happens. They are saying to you that Russia are going to win this. Not a question if, the question of when. Right. Let's move on. That's like I talk about Ukraine, Russia all day long. I haven't got time for that, unfortunately. Do go to my Twitter account, UKRRUS News. God, a lot of people really like to spam me. What's going on here? Maybe we need to keep quiet about my account. Right. So, culture wars in the UK. Oh, yes. Let's get some things on record first. Number one, UK doesn't do culture wars unlike America. I hate to break it to you, people on the right, my friends on the right, we don't do culture wars here, and if we did, we would be winning elections left, right and centre. But we don't. Number two, just because we're of a certain opinion doesn't mean the majority of people in this country believe it. Get off this so-called silent majority, stop talking about it because it doesn't exist, stop falling for this nonsense because it doesn't exist. Alright? I wish it did, but it doesn't. It doesn't exist. If there was a silent majority, guys, we would have won every election. There isn't a quote-unquote group of people who would turn the election over turn it over to us and win us so many seats because they got off the couch and thought, now they're talking some sense. That doesn't exist at all. There are plenty of people on the opposite side of the political aisle who don't vote at all either. If you turn up and vote, they'll turn up and vote too. So enough of this nonsense. Let's get those things in place first. Okay? Now, Nigel Farage said that Britain is lawless. Okay? So, he was apparently challenged by this lady called, and she's a woman, no question about it, a very pretty girl, Mari Aurora, Sky News political correspondent. And this is what she said. Let me see if I can get the audio on here so you need to hear it. Actually, I can get on the screen as well at the same time. That might be helpful. Have a listen to this. And I'm going to show you the article she wrote afterwards. Right, let's get this on the screen. Come on now. Here we go. Right, let's go.
Project Fear. Are you trying to make people afraid and trying to steer them into fear, and therefore that is the way you will get them to vote for you?
No, they are afraid.
You know what? If I was Farage at that point, I would have said, next question. I left it there. They are afraid. Next question. Okay, and then he goes on. Let's have a listen.
They are afraid. I dare you to walk through the West End of London after 9 o'clock of an evening wearing jewellery. You wouldn't do it. You know that I'm right. You wouldn't do it. And that's just in London, let alone what's happening in so many other parts of the country. And the genuine fears that mothers have, particularly for teenage kids, we have to recognise something. There are some people who come from certain cultures that pose a danger to our society.
Well, I mean, that wasn't really a challenge, but it was a simple question. Were you using fear tactics to steer voters towards your party? Now, is he using tactics to steer people towards his party? You can make an argument for that, I suppose. Here's the problem, though, of the whole question about crime, lawlessness, and these statistics they keep coming up with. So the actual article that I'm referring to, that she wrote herself, by the way, let's get maybe a few quotes from there. So within not too long after that conference, she wrote a piece. I'm not kidding. It says here, Nigel Farage dared me to walk in London after 9 p.m. Here's my response. Well, you didn't actually walk, did you? And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame you. And it says, Nigel Farage is tapping into voters' emotions, their feelings that the country's broken. Now, hold on a second. A couple of things first, okay? Both things can be true. All right. Is he tapping into voters' emotions, their feelings that the country's broken? Sure. We can say that's true. Here's the other part you're forgetting about. He didn't come up with this stuff. People are out there talking about it. We, the people, are talking about it. Because you can't have a situation whereby you treat crime as stats. You can't. Well, ladies and gentlemen, crime is not as bad as you think. We had 1,000 rapes last year. Now there's only 500. We had a drop of 500. Be proud. It's like, wait a minute. We're not worried about the numbers dropping. That's good news, of course. There's still 500 women that were raped, for crying out loud. The muggings still happen. The shootings on the occasion may happen as well of gangs. The teenagers stabbing each other. This still happens. These are human beings killing each other. This isn't a joke. This is about numbers. It says in the article, the answer wasn't what I expected. I asked the Reform UK leader if the 6-week campaign on law and order and the tagline Brunner's Lawless wasn't like Project Fear. And he mentioned about the jury, of course. Okay. And she says, I'm not afraid to walk in the West End of London after 9 PM wearing jewellery. I've done it many times before and will continue to do so. But perhaps that is because I don't own a Rolex. However, just because Farage is wrong on that point doesn't mean he's tapping into other legitimate fears across the country. Okay, 1 second, guys. You need to come back. 1 minute. Just bear with me. Sorry about that. So, let's go back to what she was saying. Right. Yeah, she mentions, this is the reporter, I'm not afraid to walk in the West End of London at 9 PM wearing jewellery, shows her own Rolex. I go, snatch theft does worry me, hence why I now have a phone case with a strap attached to it so I can put it around my body. You just made his point though. You just made his point. Nothing wrong with agreeing with Farage. You literally made his point. And then she goes on to say this. And I worry about knife crime in my area and what the impact could be if I were to have children, God willing for you. On the weekend, someone will stab to death, a stone's thrown from my house. And this is when she gets into stats. Possession of weapons has fallen in London by 29% in the last 3 years. How do you know that? That's reported crime, reported numbers. You know where the guns are. And according to ONS, crime in England and Wales is 30% lower than 2015, 76% lower than 1995. Again, doesn't account for unreported crime. And this is when her whole article falls to pieces. I don't understand this. She's clearly not. She's not stupid. She says, in short, am I right to be more worried than snatch theft and knife crime in London is increasing? Answer, yes and no. But Nigel Farage is tapping to voters' emotions. As soon as you say, but Nigel Farage, you've lost the argument. And she's saying that Farage is doing this to play into people's emotions. No, people come up to Farage and tell him that crime is bad in the country, crime is bad in the areas they live in. People are not getting long sentences. They are being released from jail early. There was a story, what was it, a couple months back? Let me see if I can find a story for you. In fact, there was Sky News who reported it as well. There was a man released early from prison. Yeah, here it is. This is no joke. They keep saying Farage is tapping to emotions. Look what it says here. This is in January this year. Prisoner released early under government scheme assaulted ex-partner the day after he was freed. I don't know what she sees in him, or saw in him I should say, but there he is. There he is giving her thumbs up after leaving prison last year. A day after, he goes and attacks. I mean, this image of this guy here goes very well with this image. That's what Farage is referring to. So, why are Sky News thinking it's important to go after Farage on this very thing in relation to, oh, I don't know, tapping to emotions? When you actually almost, if in fact you agree 75% of the way, you agree 75% of what Farage is saying. You're going with these numbers and thinking, well, it's not actually that bad. Right? It's not good, man. It's not good. It really isn't. This is why I keep saying media unable to handle Farage, because why are you going after him on this very thing? Where for the last 15, 20 years, especially with social media, what we've witnessed, right? What we've witnessed. I think that's the same video we just saw. Yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry. What we witnessed is quite disturbing. It goes beyond numbers. Just in the last couple of weeks, you know, I remember saying to people, and I was very critical on this, right? And, you know, I'll call myself out on this one. I kept saying to people, why aren't parents sticking with their children when they go outside? That'll make it much safer. Well, guess what? It wasn't the case at all. Just recently, a man who came from outside the country, in this case Afghanistan, no surprise there, or was it, I think it was Sudan, not Afghanistan. It was either one of those two countries. Tried to snatch a girl when her father was right there. From what I heard. From what I'm seeing in the headlines. I'm thinking, it's that bad? Because some of these men and women who've got the kids, they're going to start arming themselves at some point. That's how much they care about their children. I'm going to defend them at all costs. And you won't blame. I'm not advocating vengeance or go alone and become a militia group or anything. No, absolutely not. But you cannot change how people think. That's not Farage preying on their anger and thinking, oh, I can take advantage of this. No, this is actually how people live now. They're thinking of protecting themselves. You've got to do something about it because the police can't handle it, or the police don't do anything about it, and the court system don't put these people away. You have no any more confidence in the justice system as it is. So there are so many things that happen over the course of 5-10 years that eventually the same people who are actually saying, yeah, I do trust the justice system, I do trust it, and I think it's a good thing to have. We have one of the best systems in the world. When it fails them, how do you think they feel afterwards? But it didn't just fail once. It fails twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. It's non-stop. So I would say, for the things that Farage have done so far at Reform, he's playing it safe with the culture wars. He could probably go a little bit further. But sometimes when you go too far, you think you're on a high, it's working really well, and all of a sudden, you get Advanced UK, who now have to spend their time explaining why one of the top spokesmen is now facing a trial. Potentially he's now in jail. I think he's been arrested, Tom Robinson. I think. Because it's funny, because the headlines say a 40-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm, but in fact it's actually him. Because Harrow Times say man arrested, Scunny say man arrested, right? Then you go, Telegraph says Tom Rawson's arrested, BBC says he's arrested. So if we go to BBC, yeah, well, why do you think? If you let him into. If you let this guy into Reform, what do you think will happen right now? Will we be talking about crime? You see the problem? You see, this is the problem we're going to have. Right. So let's see. Yeah. Of course, in the end, when it comes to assault, if the person coming after you, well, let's say, in this case, Tom Robinson's case, if Torrenson was just tapped on the shoulder, well, you can feel that it was threatened at that point. The person's coming after him, or the person threatens to hit him, or threatens to kill him. Not I'm saying he does, I'm just saying you have the right to fall back. The problem with Mike Amsbury's position was that he hit the guy once because the guy kept saying he was going to kill him, or threatened to hurt him. You've actually enforced your self-defense right there, which is fine. The person's on the ground, he's no longer a threat to you. Why do you keep hitting him, right? In this case, Tom Robinson knocked this guy out, apparently, with one punch. I mean, he's okay, apparently, from what I've read. Let's see. Get some water there. So yeah, he'll have to answer that, of course, and see what happens. He joins Advance UK, and now he potentially might be going to prison. And you can see why why Farage said, you know what, no thank you. Alright. Sometimes you've got to play it safe. You can't go all out, be too forceful. Recent, a couple of things before we wrap up. Andrew Neil summed it up really well on Times Radio Politics when he said that Labour spent all this energy and time attacking the Tories once they got in power, forgetting about I wouldn't say new parties, and because of course, you know, we've got the I forget what they're called now. Well, we know what they're called actually, to be fair. The breakaway party for Corbyn and Sultana. So there's that, and he made a point that saying, well, you've got to be careful here because a lot of seats out there, particularly someone like Jess Phillips, who attacked Farage, saying he would be the kind of person who enables modern day Jimmy Savile's. When her seat, she won by, what was it by? She didn't win by a much, did she? Let's go Jess Phillips. Jess Phillips. I can spell her name right. Constituency. Last election result. Majority of 693. Bear in mind though, the turnout was under 50% in that constituency. So she's got some leg room there, but you know, she just beat Workers' Party of Britain, which was George Galloway's party there. Jodie McIntyre was the one who ran against her. She lost by a very short number. Reform UK were in third, with the Liberal Democrat, Conservative and Green following them. But neither Reform, Liberal Democrat, Conservative, Green away with the chance of winning that one. You never know, things change very quickly. So, yeah, she's in trouble. Her seat, I'm not surprised that she is on the offensive as well. If we go to latest news, it's what's happening here. Not much else happening. Let's see. There was something that came up about. I think I just closed the tab actually. Open close tab. That was it. Yeah. So the Metropolitan Police apparently said something, and they had to clarify it. Let me put this on the screen. So it says here, and it was posted on the 3rd of August, being yesterday. We have not banned protests outside Britannia International Hotel. We continue to encourage those exercising the lawful right to protest to do so responsibly. Anyone who crosses the line from lawful protest into criminality can expect to face police action. And of course, they're talking about the dispersal that I think they used, and which means that specific group to leave and not return for 28 days. Well, how do you know who that is then? What if another group of people come in and they're wearing the same kind of outfits, but different people? Do you ban them as well? immediately and say, sorry, we can't let you in here? Because so far the protest has been very light in terms of response. So I'm not entirely sure what the Metropolitan Police are talking about here. We have not banned protests. You effectively have banned protests by saying you can't return for 28 days. You need to be more specific about this in using your powers. Okay. Have you caught those that are harassing them? Can you release statements on those who actually were harassing and put a picture of those in the masks, of course, which is fine, so people can say, okay, I know who these people are, we don't want anything to do with them. You're not very clear on the language here. You're not clear at all. Again, another reason why people don't trust these guys anymore. There was recently a teacher in the UK who said Lucy Connolly was a victim of a two-tier policy and should now have been jailed, has been sacked by Preston College after a Muslim colleague said a comment were Islamophobic, apparently. I don't know whether that's true or not. That's based on a tweet from Matt Goodwin. I know there's a story about this, but I'm not sure whether that was the reason. I can't confirm that. Alright. Okay, apparently that's kind of said. Is it not? Oh, another teacher is. I think that's second teacher actually. One or two teachers. I can't remember which one I read before. Maybe there's another one. Expect some cool action there. And just to wrap up the stream, I'll talk about this culture war stuff a little bit more. Look, I've been around politics now. I'm not the front guy on the front lines or a spokesperson for anybody. I've observed for the last 20 years. This is my advice to people out there who are young, go into politics, go on social media most of the time, who don't get out too much, and they should do, but they don't get out too much, and I know it's difficult to drop your phone, but please pay attention. Just this once. You may have a social media following of 1, 2, 3, 4,000, 50,000, 100,000 people. Doesn't make you that special or popular. If I'm brutally honest, you're still a nobody. You're equal nobody to me with someone who just got nearly 4,000 followers. Right? Stay away from the drama. Okay? Don't get involved in that crap. It is crap. I was called for it. I'll tell it like it is. Don't get involved in it. Ain't worth it. You're wasting energy and time. And those people who feed off that, guys, are actually looking to make money off you too. They need to get some following, extra followers, get more traction, get more impressions. That's what they do. That's how they make their presence on social media known, how they get more revenue, more income. Right? You'll be very, very careful about this. Very careful. You should focus on what you can do for your community, for your family more importantly, but also your community and local level, rather than thinking you're going to be the spokesperson next Prime Minister. It's not going to happen. Get yourself a proper job, work your way up. You want to get more income from doing some stuff online, go for it. Don't let it take over your life. It ain't worth it. Life is too short to get involved in this nonsense. We've got so much going on. Our economy is falling apart. It ain't great at the moment. Our border's not secure. So all these other issues which are involved in culture wars, is anyone going to push back on same-sex marriage anytime soon? No. How much pushback has there been in schools on the trans stuff? They keep talking about prisons all the time. Guys, I don't live in prison. I live outside. I live out there. I'm all for making it safe for women in prisons. But guys, we've got bigger priorities than that. Sorry, we do. You want to fight that culture war? Go for it. Good luck to you. I hope you win. There's a thing called, there's something other which is actually far more important than the culture wars. It's called inflation, which is killing us. The man who couldn't even define what a woman is won the election last time round. And he won with a majority. Whoever's in power, these kind of culture wars you can win by pressure. Because in the end, most people, believe it or not, whether we're a religious country or not, most people don't want a guy who's in charge to be a preacher. They don't want that. And neither do I. I want the guy on top to make sure the country is economically healthy, and the country is secure from domestic and foreign threats. That's it. Everything else, leave it to us. We'll sort it out. And wrap up the stream there. So don't forget to check out, if you want to check me out on Twitter, which is UKRIOS News, and also Telegram, t.me/TheNationState. That on the Telegram is more so to do with Ukraine and Russia more than anything else, because most of the UK stuff is posted on my Twitter account. Okay? Good night and